The history of human growth and development is at the same time the history of the terrible struggle of every new idea becoming a reality. In its firm hold on tradition, the old ideas have never hesitated to make use of the foulest and cruelest means to overshadow the new ideas in whatever form or period the new idea has shown itself.
Hacking is a lot of things, a lot of different things with the same name, and all of them are correct, all of them are wrong.
For me, hacking is not just about creation, but it's about intercombining and subverting things in the process of creation.
Many people talk about hacking being like a mindset, being interested in how things work and what you can do with what you have around you.
Hacking är att se ett system. Det kan vara ett datasystem eller ett samhällssystem. Och att hacka är att förändra det systemet.
If we look at our history, we see the enormity of opposition, difficulties and hardships placed in the path of every progressive idea.
I don't think that hackers are any more dangerous than the average people.
People that are been active with the hacking scene, they also understand that democratic rights are being threatened, and that's why they also become activists, which use the power and the tools they have.
Hacking is not corporate hackathons or programming for banks. We are in direct opposition to this commercialization.
It requires less mental effort to condemn than to think. Rather than to go to the bottom of any given idea, to examine into its origin and meaning, it's easier to condemn it all together. All that can be done is to plant the seeds of thought. Whether something vital will develop depends largely on the fertility of the human soil.
Most people feel inherently unsafe on the internet.
We couldn't find any data, so we wanted to just collect as much data.
Surveillance, capitalism.
Have a tool to maintain the struggle of free public transport.
It's a network of people completely off the grid.
Control of the internet. That is society. Very good.
Tsunami has been observed in a wide area. A series of them are reaching the coast of northeastern and eastern Japan after a magnitude 7.4 earthquake struck off Fukushima Prefecture Tuesday morning.
March 11th, 2011, we had a big earthquake, which was nearly 9.0 magnitude. Then after that, the big massive tsunami came, and then more than 10,000 people were killed by that. Right after the tsunami, the Fukushima Daiichi power plant got heavily damaged and they exploded. It was very fearful. Didn't know how bad that was. Some news said it was worse than Chernobyl, and that was a really scary thing to us. And then we also have experience of Hiroshima and Nagasaki bombing, and we know since we were kids. We watched so many documentaries and movies that how terrible atomic bomb is. So I instantly thought about those kind of damage, injury.
Safecast started because in the days after the earthquake, we couldn't find any radiation levels. We were looking for information. We started seeing reports about problems at the reactor, and we couldn't find any data available at all. Initially, they were just publishing these sort of general average radiation levels. So they were posting one reading for all of Tokyo, one reading for all of Fukushima, one reading, so the readings that were coming out were very vague. And they initially evacuated just a 20-kilometer radius around the plant. There was a lot of confusion and frustration early on because a lot of people wanted to know what the readings were near them, and the best information they could get was an average from a reading that was taken, 15 or 20 kilometers from where they were at. So people didn't know, what that meant in relation to them or whatever. So there was a lot of stress and concern. So we wanted to just collect as much data as we possibly could right away so that then other people could use it. So we just jumped in to try to document as much as we possibly could. 100 nanocaps, buzzers, toggles, dip switch. They have tall standoff pink ones.
Okay. A bunch. Probably 100. Yeah, 100.
100?
Yep.
100 in this?
Yeah.
So our first thought was to just get a bunch of Geiger counters and give them out to people. But we ran into problems with that right away because there was no Geiger counters available either. Literally the world's supply of Geiger counters sold out within the first week. So since we only had a few devices, we had to think about how we could collect a lot of data with those devices. And that's how we came up with the idea for the BGeigy system. So this is sort of our main workhorse device right now. So this is the BGeigy Nano. You can attach them out of the window on your car while you drive around, which is mostly what we do with it, or people attach them to the bikes or in a backpack or something while they walk around. And yeah, it collects the data and logs a GPS point and a radiation reading every 5 seconds as it goes. So you get a very, very huge map of where you're going and lots of data throughout the day.
So that's the car we're gonna take today? Oh, thank you. This is measuring radiation amount in Tokyo. Because before that, before 311, against nuke plant is kind of taboo. When some people talking about, oh, I'm against nuke, then people start looking at them with white eyes. Means like, what are you talking about? How without nuke plant, how can we survive? These people are nuts or something. But now people start realizing how dangerous this is, how risky this is. So it shows 0.125 microsievert right now.
But as you can see from the contamination map that we published, there's contamination almost 80 kilometers out in a wide kind of swath from the plant. And it's not a perfect circle. You know, they didn't have readings to show what was contaminated or what wasn't. There was nothing in place, right? And so once that data started coming in to see where things were actually contaminated, then it showed a very different picture. There were some areas within that 20-kilometer zone that weren't that contaminated, some areas, you know, quite far outside of it that had very high readings. So yeah, there was definitely people who moved out of the evacuation zone into areas that were, you know, at least as contaminated as the place they were moving from, sometimes higher. We're collecting this data, and it's available online to everybody. But you know, there's like all these people walking around all the time, and they're not necessarily getting access to the data. So we're trying to think of what's the best way to sort of get that information out to random people on the street, as well as like let them know that there's more data available and everything. So we took our B-Geige, right, and then we came up with the paper Geige. And so what we do is take a reading right now. So this is like 50 CPM or 0.5 millisieverts. Then we got this. And so we'll write down what the reading is. 0.159. And then on here it says that the area has been measured, and then for more information you can check out Safecast. And then that way anybody who sees this knows what a reading is, and then can dig in for more information later if they want. Well, initially they were just publishing these kind of general average data, like I said, you know, so they were posting one reading for all of Tokyo, one reading for all of Fukushima, one reading, you know, so the readings that were coming out were very vague. And then once contrasted with our data, it seemed almost useless. So for example, the prefecture of Fukushima uses the Safecast data for their maps, because our data is much more precise than the sort of official data set from the Japanese government. And so the official data set has about 30,000 data points, and the Safecast data set now has over 16 million. So, you know, the scale is vastly different. I'm not gonna walk in front of it because it's a police station, but over on that phone booth, right, so it's right next to the police station right there. You can see on the phone booth. Yeah, it's one of the first Safecast stickers that we put up where we measured the radiation dates. Almost 3 years later, it's still up. You can see somebody tried to peel it off and they couldn't get it.
Hacking är att hitta fel och brister i systemen och göra dem bättre. Och ofta kan det vara att påvisa felen genom att just hacka systemet, genom att gå in i systemet och visa att det går.
A perfect personality is only possible in the society where we are free to choose the mode of work, the conditions of work, and the freedom to work. When the making of a table, the building of a house, working of the land is for us what the painting is to the artist, and the discovery to the scientist. The result of inspiration, of intense longing, and deep interest in work as a creative force. Still more fatal is the crime of turning us producers into small particles of a machine with less will and decision than our master of steel and iron. We are being robbed not only of the products of our labor, but of the power of free initiative, of originality, and the interest in or desire for the things we are making. But if we are doomed to be employed, be employable, there can be no talk of wealth. What we give to the world is only grey and hideous things. reflecting a dull and hideous existence.
The computer chip.
Computers are very political. You have the tool, you can make something.
The interest of the developing technology is in the hands of a few elites that are only interested in their own economical benefit. Keeping something that should be a tool of all people and making it just commodity of some elites.
So hackers, when they open up technology, they are minimizing the risks of technology instead.
We can create another way of production that is more sustainable, and it's linked also to technological grassroots advance, and we think we have to prepare for another way of living. We need to change the paradigm of technology, how we do, like we take all these metals from Africa, then we take them to China, then we make the computer there, we sell it in Germany, and this is going to stop happening because it's not going to be worth it anymore. So in that sense, I believe we have to prepare for the time in which this happens and start producing and being able to produce things ourselves.
Real wealth consists in things of utility and beauty, in things that help to create strong, beautiful people, and surroundings inspiring to live in.
Där är Lenin. Kanske inte en förespråkare för den typen av kommunism, men jag gillar framåtandan och att man kan göra någonting med teknik. Ett citat som han har sagt är att maskinerna är våra vänner, utan dem finns ingen framtid. Och det är jag lite beredd att hålla med om. Men jag skulle inte vilja se att det är pansarvagnar som är de maskinerna. Det gör ju militärer redan, de är jättebra på att göra maskiner. Men jag vill ju att vi ska göra maskiner som är snälla istället.
Actualmente, en una casa de Cuba no hay internet. Le presento a un amigo mío que no sabe nada de qué es internet, qué puede hacer el internet, y quisiera preguntarle, ¿qué tú puedes decir de internet?
Yo que no tengo computadora ni tengo acceso a la tecnología, pero yo sí sé que es lo que es internet.
¿Qué tú puedes decir que es lo que es?
Yo quisiera navegar por internet, buscar datos, buscar, por ejemplo, cosas que pasan en el mundo entero, tecnología, medicina, salud, pero no tengo acceso porque no tengo la tecnología. Y aquí unos pocos la tienen, y el que la tiene no la comparte. Por ejemplo, los que están hijos de mamá y papá, que son los hijos de los ricos.
Te hago una pregunta, ¿cuántas veces tú has visto internet?
Nunca.
Nunca.
Nunca. Sé que existe, pero nunca lo he visto.
Eso es los cubanos que saben de internet.
Eso. Nada más que sé que existe porque conozco más o menos, pero de acceder a internet nunca he accedido a internet.
Nunca lo he visto.
Nunca.
¿Por qué yo pienso que el gobierno tiene tanto miedo? Pienso yo que el gobierno debe tanto miedo porque se ven muchas cosas bellas en internet. O sea, hay mucha información que el cubano no sabe.
A lo mejor tiene miedo que nosotros veamos en internet algo, pero que ya el cubano sabe bastante. Sabe bastante, ya es demasiado tarde. Pero como quiera que sea, no dejan al cubano navegar por internet. Tiene que ser intranet. Internet es imposible. Son muy pocas las personas que tienen acceso a internet, pero son personas que tienen amistad de negocios, del gobierno, que son la gente que tienen el poder, que pueden tener acceso a internet. Nosotros no podemos navegar por internet. Aunque tuviéramos 1.000 millones de... no tenemos derecho. No tenemos derecho a elevar nuestro nivel intelectual.
Cuba's not black and white, you know. dictatorship, human rights issues, communist paradise. People are so happy there. Life is so good with nothing. Okay, if you're poor, that's your problem. It's not black and white, you know, just rule the money. It's like on one side, being born there and living there, you have a really nice set of values. It's said openly, like the internet, it's like dangerous, you know, because there is a lot of information there. They don't want that the people are exposed to certain information and about how is life somewhere else, you know.
Actualmente el internet es ilegal en las casas de los cubanos. En las casas, mi propia casa es ilegal. No puedes tener internet. Es ilegal. Para tener internet tiene que ser, como le expliqué, por medio de un estudiante extranjero residente en Cuba. Yo lo tuve cerca de 3 años. Cuando detectaron que tenía, me lo quitaron. Bueno, en la mañana se aparecieron 6 de la mañana. Un compañero oficial del DTI vestido de civil, haciéndome una pregunta sobre internet. Como yo no lo conocía, no le hice la respuesta. Atrás vinieron 3 carros a hacerme un registro con la policía informática de La Habana. Vinieron, te revisan la máquina, se llevan el disco duro y te revisan, te preguntan por dónde es la cuenta. Ya teniendo la cuenta, que normalmente como yo la tenía por medio de un extranjero, es legal, pero para ellos, como soy cubano, me es ilegal. Por eso te ponen una multa de $1000, y te retiran la cuenta y la computadora. Si los cubanos tuviéramos internet, creo que se bailaría mejor, se de todo mejor, hubiera más relación entre personas, se conocería el mundo a través de esa pequeñita pantalla, que uno no puede conocer el mundo. El internet pienso que en 5 o 10 años sea legal y sea normal. Pienso que en 5 o 10 años, ya en 5 o 10 años ya no es internet, ahora se llamará otra cosa, pienso yo.
The new thing that happened, it's like you can access real internet. This internet is available on hotels and on public places like parks and this stuff. It's still like a luxury, it's not like a thing that you get for granted. Because it is expensive. It's like, I think now it's like 150 CUC the hour or something like that. That's a lot of money, you know. But then these hotspots, it became like a social place, and this is the most crazy thing that happens. So people see you later at the hotspot, you know, and they meet there and they mingle and stuff, so there is a completely new dynamic. With the content like films and series and stuff, there is this new thing called testnet.
This cable? This one?
Freetnet. They call it testnet because it sounds cool. It's a network of people completely off the grid. And it was a network that was created by gamers. They just wanted to connect to each other and play it. And then it becomes really big. In Havana, it's around like more than 10,000 people connected.
So there's a lot of towers like this one with an station on top. There's another one. There's another one. There's more and more and more across the whole city because it's a lot of people. Now the whole Havana is connected to the testnet.
The golden rule of testnet is like during the day we are here for playing because we need a full power technological power to get connected and there is no latency. So if I see as the chief of the node, if I see that you are downloading some stuff, I'm going to ban you and tell you like, you warning, you shouldn't be doing that, because the night then is for then downloading content, because that it's stored in some servers and then you can get the new series, movies and stuff. But don't do that during the day. Like, they have their own environments inside, like they have their own little Facebookito, I think, or they have the search engine, like a little on Google and stuff.
All those cables are connected there. Those two are the one from the tower, and that one, it connects to the switch that connects the whole network.
Another of the main rule of the SNET is like no political content and no advertising on the net. They are like afraid, and if they start to put political content, if the people take advantage of the network to spread some political content, they will get banned or they will get spotted by the government very easily. And you cannot put advertising because they should not profit on that thing. It will break the community, you know, there is like open software communities. Once you monetize that, then it's broken, no? It's like it changed the set of value or whatever it works for them, so.
The cables from his network end here. They end here. From this point further, other people control the network.
It felt very community, so you felt like you're really like part of something special, and you're like an important like member of something bigger than you, that you keep it and stuff. Like the good old days of internet. Like, you know everybody.
The need for these kind of decentralized networks is probably a bit varying around the world. It could be that you live in an area where you have an authoritarian, totalitarian regime and you need to circumvent censorship and be able to communicate. So it could be that you need or want to dodge and avoid surveillance capitalism, that your internet provider is monetizing on information about you. And it can be beneficial in disaster areas or like poorer communities where not many people can afford an internet connection but can collectively use that or those few connections and spread them between each other. Decentralized network.
Mesh network.
Surveillance capitalism.
We think internet is not going to be free and open to everybody forever. So we have to be prepared to replace it with some autonomous network, or we will not be able to communicate anymore between each other.
It's really important that we don't give away the control of the internet to corporations or governments, because they don't have the same interest as the end users, the people.
It is difficult to credit governments any capacity for order or social harmony. Order preserved through submission and maintained by terror is not much of a safe guarantee. Yet that is the only order that governments have ever maintained. Indeed, the foundation of government is injustice. Governments impose, judge, condemn, and punish the most insignificant offenses. It matters not whether it is government by divine right or majority rule. In every instance, its aim is the absolute subordination of the individual.
If you look at it from the perspective of political philosophy, it's very easy to define it as freedom of speech movement, where you have these very strong ideals about individual rights that should not be threatened by a state or limited by a state.
In today's world where technology surrounds us constantly, having control over your own information is incredibly important. Individuals were being arrested and detained, and they were being tortured for their Facebook passwords and their Gmail passwords.
That is a society that is very broken and losing its basic ability to communicate.
Surveillance capitalism.
Unfortunately, there are still a number of people who continue in the fatal belief that government rests on natural laws, that it maintains social order and harmony, that it diminishes crime, and that it prevents the lazy person from deceiving other people. The only way governments meet this situation is by extending still greater privileges to those who have already monopolized the earth, and by still further enslaving us. Thus, the entire arsenal of government, laws, police, soldiers, the courts, legislators, prisons, is engaged in harmonizing the most progressive elements in society.
يعني أنا ولدت تحت الاحتلال، ولدت تحت القمع. ليس من العادة أن ترى يعني ليس من غير العادة أن لا ترى يعني قوات الاحتلال في الشوارع بالجيش، بالشرطة، بالدرك، متواجدون في كل منطقة من الصحراء الغربية المحتلة. يعني كثرة هذا الجيش هو الذي يجعلنا نعيش في الرعب والرهبة والخوف تحت ظل الاحتلال. الصحراء الغربية في الانترنت مراقبة من طرف الأجهزة المغربية، من أجهزة المخابرات، من أجهزة الجيش. يراقب دائما الانترنت والهواتف، يراقب كل تحركات النشطاء الصحراويين سواء إعلاميين أو أو نشطاء حقوقيين أو حتى مواطنين عاديين يتظاهرون من أجل حقوقهم. الآن أنا أشاهد يعني مجموعة من الفيديوهات يعني للتدخل على وقف المنطقة، لكن أحاول يعني أن أستخدم بعض برامج الإيديتين عبر الهاتف من أجل يعني إخفاء بعض أوجه المتظاهرين، ومن أجل أيضا تحميله على موقع اليوتيوب وعلى مواقع التواصل الاجتماعي. أيضا كذلك يجب أن أحاول أن أشفر بعض الرسائل إلى الأصدقاء، لأن نحاول استعمال برامج مشفرة من أجل التواصل فيما بيننا. في الصحراء الغربية لا يمكننا أن التصوير داخل الشوارع المشاهد من فوق الأسطح أو بكاميرات مخفية أو ابتكار طرق للتصوير بطريقة مخفية، لأنه يمنع على الصحفيين الأجانب الدخول إلى المنطقة. نتعلم الانترنت والحماية الرقمية من الانترنت نفسه، نتعلم عن طريق اليوتيوب أو جوجل أو مواقع التواصل الاجتماعي. يعني طرق لاختراق الأجهزة نتعلم ذلك ليس من أجل اختراق أجهزة الناس، لكن من أجل حماية أنفسنا من المخترقين المغاربة، لأن السلطات المغربية تستعين بمخترقين أو يعني قراصنة مغاربة من أجل الهجوم على صحراويين النشطاء الصحراويين، سواء الإعلاميين أو النشطاء يعني الحقوقيين. نرى شرطة بالزي المدني وهي يعني تقمع المتظاهرين في الشوارع، تحاول يعني حتى توثيق أوجه المتظاهرين من أجل يعني التحقيق معهم ومن أجل معرفتهم ووضع ملفات لكل مناضل على حدة. قوات الاحتلال تدخلت على منزل عائلتي من أجل البحث عني، وأنا نشوف فيهم من دار خويا عايد نتقابل مع الدار. عند منين شفتهم هجموا على منزل عائلتي، أول شيء عدلته هو قلعت سيم كارد، قلعت بطاقة الهاتف، لأني نعرف عن المخابرات دائما يرصدوا موقع ديالي بموقعي عبر الهاتف. مني كنت متخزن عن القوات المغربية، كنت دائما عند منين نبغي نتكلم مع حد لا نوقف أي شخص نوقفه في الشارع ونقول له أعطيني تليفونك، كنت معدل منها مكالمة بيا تليفوني ديشارجي ونتكلم من تليفونه ونقطع مباشرة. منين كنت متخزن عن القوات المغربية كنت دائما عند منين نبغي نتكلم مع حد احتجت رقم هاتف داخل هاتفي فقط. شغلت هاتفي لمدة 40 ثانية بالتمام من أجل البحث عن رقم الهاتف، فإذا ب6 سيارات للدرك، 2 للأمام و2 لهذه الجهة و2 لجهة أخرى. تم اعتقالي من طرف الدرك الملكي المغربي في تلك المدينة، مصفد اليدين والرجلين القدمين، وكذلك شريط أسود على عيني من أجل عدم مشاهدة أي من الضباط المعتقلين أو اعتقلوني الدرك الحربي المغربي في المدينة، ولقاو عندي 15 كرنة بطاقة صغيرة للهاتف، لأني كنت دائما عند منين نبغي نتكلم مع حد نشري كرنة جديدة. وبدأ التحقيق والتعذيب بالضوء وتعذيب أعواد غليظة. ويتبدلوا حتى المحققين، يجيك واحد معدل، يجيك واحد متسلط، يجيك واحد معذب، يتغيروا عليك بشكل يومي ياسر من الوجه، وانت طبعا لا سامع الصوت لانه عينيك مغمضين مديول لهم باندا. هذا هو الذي جعل مني أن أسمي تلك الأيام هي 5 أسود أيام في حياتي. The 5 black days in my life.
The way that social media connects people, they can actually track down a whole tree of activists or a particular group of individuals.
There is a need for this kind of anti-authoritarian socialism of some sort, where you can, own yourself, not be a product of your country or be a product of Facebook or something like that. Our regulation framework does not work in the society we have right now.
It was, as we saw, hacking the politics, because we are using our own methods and ideas in order to bring change to a system which was not functioning properly.
That is actually the beauty of the Icelandic Pirate Party, is that basically the IRC channel just became a political party in a way. And we actually knew each other from IRC through nicknames, and we had, it was actually people who had been fighting each other about politics and social issues for like 10 years. And for the first time, they were there together, away from keyboard, fighting for something that they really believed in. We need a political change. We are going through a major social change, and we need to have a different. We need a different party. We need pirates.
This is so big. Look at this. This is like Pan's Labyrinth.
Christian and Helga, so we're going to eat in the Jan building, but
yeah, I want to join you.
It's in the Jan building, the restaurant.
Yeah, the restaurant of the Jan building.
Yes.
I think.
Yeah, it is.
Okej, är du på väg upp? Nej, det är du inte. Eller? The air quality is not super good in here. It's one of those things. We also don't have nice sandwiches, and the coffee sucks. So I literally can't put up with waiting for elevators. It's very boring to wait for elevators. What? I'm going up to the 3rd floor and then I'm going to Jan. See you by the restaurant. Most people feel inherently unsafe on the internet. We have no stable and secure kind of environment to be in on the internet. We don't like the way companies deal with our data. We are worried about what our government is doing with our data. We're worried about being surveilled, affected in ways that is beyond our controls. When you do surveys on people in the European Union, this is like 75% of all Europeans that feel uncomfortable with not having enough control over what happens with their personal data. In the United States, the number of people who feel insecure is even larger. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. We've come to the second part of this conference, which will deal with improving the licensing of works in Europe. And so we have
une réglementation réelle. Alors dans le projet de texte que j'ai vu, ce seraient les États membres qui s'en chargeraient. Mais c'est le poste de difficulté. Réaliser une réglementation réelle.
0, 2, 2, 9, 5, 8, det är lugnt. Hello, this is Amelia Andersdotter from the European Parliament.
Amelia, hi, how are you doing?
Now, if you force this interoperability on the member states, and you force all of the citizens into just kind of trusting and using a system that they cannot trust, and where actually the consequences for failure can be incredibly severe for a lot of people, you're undermining the kind of idea of the inner market being a benefit to people. And so, for that reason, the ideological debate needs to be held here for interoperability to arise. I don't understand how else you could do it.
But Amelia, two things, if I may. To be honest, we are not ourselves introducing these out of the blue, but we have been repeatedly requested by the Council to work on the interoperability of member states' national electronic.
But they don't know what they're doing. That's why we have experts like you in the European Commission that investigate these topics for a lot of years. And then when you produce this, then it's like, I mean, what are we paying you full time for?
Amelia, if you let me finish, I can explain you. The fact that we are doing.
But then there's all of the like kind of political stuff, which is just sometimes it's fun, and other times I just like fuck it. I haven't become a larger fan of democratic governance systems from being here. Actually, I think there's a large level of kind of arbitrarity in this system, and I know also the Parliament is very, very sensitive to lobbyists because we just have not the moral frameworks or the moral accountability to stand up against the lobbies.
In response to a request which goes back as early as 2005, because this is the first type of, I would say, signal that we got from the member states.
Fourth floor. Lift going up. Sixth floor. Lift going up.
The issue with surveillance, what people haven't yet grasped is the merging of lots and lots of different types of data. The most recent research about Facebook is that you're not alone your gender, your political persuasion, your sexual orientation, but even things that you would never imagine. If and when a person's parents broke up based on their activities on Facebook. Every time you've used your email address on different websites to purchase different things, imagine using facial recognition to identify every picture of you that's appeared on Facebook, on other websites. Imagine combining facial recognition that's been plugged in from cameras that are on the street. And then imagine taking all of those different sets of data and putting all of them together. That person will know significantly more about you than you know about yourself. And when somebody else starts knowing more about you than you know about yourself, then you worry.
I think that poverty and inequality between people and rich people and poor people are a bigger difference and a bigger impact than the internet. Every type of communication between people is important. Every type of change of culture, words is the important thing. The internet helps with that. It optimizes it. It will not make revolutions itself. People will make revolutions.
As true lovers of liberty, we will have as much liberty as we are willing to take. We therefore stand for direct action, the open defiance of, and resistance to, all laws and restrictions, economic, social, and moral. But defiance and resistance are illegal. Therein lies the salvation for us. Everything illegal necessitates integrity, self-reliance, and courage. In short, it calls for free, independent spirits.
I think the focus on the tool itself will go away a bit. So People who are hacktivists, they will only become activists in the future.
Ska jag handska för det här?
Nästa Hallonbergen.
Hallonbergen tror jag, gamla spärrar. Mm. Det kanske inte behövs så många här, det är så litet. Det är kanske bättre om vi ska försöka...
Vi kör där i mitten bara då. Alltså...
Den som är i mitten av den gröna. Ja, nu är det. Det var inte så svårt. Men om du gör till höger och vänster, fan vad svårt.
Ja.
Ja. 4-0 taxilagen. Ja, men det är bara en...
Ni måste söka tillstånd. Ni får gärna öppna upp den där. Ja, tyvärr.
Nu är den öppen.
Ja, men ni ska öppna upp den där. Ja, tyvärr.
Jag har ingen sax. Men den kan vara så, det är ingen fara. Det är 0 taxidagen.
Jo, men ni måste söka tillstånd. Har ni tillstånd? Annars jag kommer ringa
men ring då.
Vidare.
Det är okej.
Då får det komma security här.
Ja, men ring då. P-kassan, it started like our idea was to create a fair strike, to use the strike weapon as you do in the labor force. Because as commuters we don't have much of a weapon. We have to go to work every day and we have to go to school. By creating this insurance fund, P-kassan, we have a tool to maintain the strike. We create a solution for people who can't afford the ticket and also can't afford to pay the fine if they get caught. When you just pay 100 instead of 700 a month, and if you get caught, we pay the fine together. The system here is one of the most expensive public transport systems in the world, and many people can't afford it, and the people who can't afford it are the people who are depending most on it because they live furthest out from the city centre in the suburbs. It's a big system. We have metro, buses, commuter trains and trams. Like about 750,000 people using it every day. The price of the metro card in Stockholm, it's increasing much faster than anything else. For many people, there's like you have to make the choice. Either you buy new winter shoes or you buy the monthly card. It's expensive, and it's. I mean, if you have many children, even if it's like it's a lower price for kids, it's still a lot, and many people can't afford it. By creating this insurance fund, P-kassan, we actually have a tool to maintain the strike, because if I would just like, if I get caught, I don't risk half of the money that I have rest of the month. I never look around when I'm in the bus or in the metro. I just like I read a book or eat my breakfast or whatever. Like it's safety or yeah, an insurance. Det är godis och klistermärken. Ja, idag för det är nolltaxidagen. Va? Det är nolltaxidagen. Vi firar gratis kollektivtrafik så vi ska öppna alla spärrar. We have these bags we prepared with the straps and stickers. We also have a lot of things, balloons and some snacks, umbrellas because we didn't know about the weather. Also bus cards. This is good to have if you meet the controller. You have all your rights in this small card. Yeah, so basically everything you need.
Last Saturday was the first Saturday of March, and that's the annual Nolltaxedagen, Free Public Transport Day, that we invented, I think 7 years ago. It's a day to create awareness and to celebrate the struggle of free public transport. In Stockholm we opened a lot of gates in the metro system. Very simple, we just put these straps, plastic straps together, and it holds the gates open. And it's a very easy way to show how it could be without the gates and if the public transport system was more open. So. Also, if you look at who is using the public transport, like which groups are the citizens, you can see a majority of women, all the people who can't afford to have a car, or like too young, or maybe too old, or can't drive for some reason. They're just like, it's the only option they have. And if you listen to any politician, they will tell you that it's important to invest in mobility for these groups, like low-income groups, women, young people, etc. Older people. I mean, many people, retired men and women, are staying at home just because it's so expensive to go for them. I mean, they don't have work to go to, but maybe they want to visit a friend at the hospital, or they want to go to a museum, they want to go just to explore the city. They choose to stay home because it's too expensive to go somewhere. And it's very sad. So the public transport fills many important purposes, I guess. And it should be free.
There's a phrase here typical of Spain saying, the land for those who work it, no? Tierra para quien no trabaja. Something will be to be made, then it should be controlled as much directly possible by the makers. So I think that's the pretty thing about Linux and this whole DIY or do-it-yourself mentality, is that you can do what you want to, you can make it, it's yours, you have the right of exploitation over it, no? You're not doing it for anybody, you're doing it for yourself or for your friends, no? I think trying to create or live as much of an open source and DIY life, I think is the closest thing we can get today to creating a step towards a real utopic society, no?
If you look at any societal development at any stage in human history, the only way it happened was because of dissent against the will of the power at that particular time. If you say the current power has got the power to prevent change forevermore, then you're saying our society should no longer evolve.
The struggle, then, really stands for the liberation of the mind from the dreariness of employment, liberation of the human body from the command of property, liberation from the control of government.
My dream scenario would be to put the communications back in the control of citizens.
The future of activism is bright, as long as we fight for the possibilities of having the rights to do it.
Together, we can build a social order based on the free grouping of individuals for the purpose of producing real social wealth. An order that will guarantee to every human being free access to the earth and full enjoyment of the necessities of life according to our desires, tastes, and personalities. We are anarchists.
Hackers, activists, digital activists, definitely anarchists, yes.
Therefore, we will not rule, and also ruled we will not be.